All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeremy, and I'm here with a very special guest, Austin Medlin. So he is the head sales coach inside of Summit Scale, and he works with a lot of our clients and helps them become absolute weapons when it comes to sales. He's taken over 7,000 sales calls, sold over $6 million himself personally on Zoom. It's probably even a little bit more than that now. And he's helped clients sell well over $100 million of coaching as well. So obviously, he's got a couple 2 comma clubs under his belt. And today we're going to dive into sales. So we're going to drop lots of bombs and he's going to pick his brain on some of the best practices, the most common mistakes people make when it comes to sales. And hopefully you'll be able to take what you learn from this, apply it into your sales calls as well. So that way you can actually improve, close more deals, make more money, and change a lot more people's lives. So with that, Austin, welcome to the channel, man.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you as always.
Of course, of course. So give us a little background, man. Like, kind of how'd you get into this whole thing, and what have the last few years kind of been looking like for you that led up until now?
Yeah, so to keep a long story short, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire life and been in some type of sales my entire life. The problem that I was running into is I was just never in the right sales vehicle. And so I would get into different industries and do different things, but they would require travel or they would require extensive knowledge of a crazy product that I knew nothing about. And 5 years ago, I got introduced to the online coaching industry. And as soon as I saw it, everything clicked because I saw these other guys and these other girls that didn't have college degrees. They weren't smarter than me, but they were just in the right vehicle of sitting at home on Zoom, educating people who genuinely needed help on a product that could help them. And then they would get commission checks deposited in their bank account every couple of weeks. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense. If you guys can make 10, 20, 30 grand a month plus sitting at home, this is where I want to be. And I was on a mission to find a good product and or service that I believed in because I knew if I didn't believe in it, I couldn't sell it. Got into a company, loved the product, clients were getting great results, and really just dug in, knowing nothing about the world of online coaching and high ticket and how it worked. So the first couple months were pretty rough, right? I had different people trying to teach me things, and it was just kind of hard to grasp because what people were teaching me was their process and their way, but it wasn't in alignment for me. So the first couple months, I had to do a deep dive of ripping apart all of the coaching that I was getting to understand the deeper principles that they were trying to accomplish. I was like, okay, they're saying this, but why? Like, what emotion are they trying to evoke? What are they trying to accomplish? And I started doing that, and I was getting the same end result, but I was doing it in a way that was in alignment for me. So by the third month in that first company, being brand new to the industry, I did 212,000 in sales that month, 10% commission. I made about 22, 23K after bonuses and everything like that. And I was like, okay, like now I'm making like some decent money, like, and I'm sitting at home and like everything is working. Now I just want to practice my craft. So I started taking like 8 to 10 calls a day, every day for a few years straight. We ended up building that company up at the peak to 1.7 million a month. And I was leading their sales team in terms of revenue. My best month ever, I did 485K in sales in a single month.
Holy
And
smokes.
yeah, that was pretty sick. That was a company record, still is to this day. And as I got better at sales, people started reaching out to me, other sales reps, other coaches, other consultants. Hey, can you help me with sales? So then I started dabbling in teaching other people. Partnered up with one guy, scaled him from 35,000 a month to 250,000 a month in 10 months. He introduced me to a friend. I took her from 100,000 a month to 550,000 a month in 14 months. Those two comma club awards. I did a good enough job as a consultant that they were like, hey, I'll slap your name on the award with me because I couldn't have done it without you. And then I was like, okay, I keep building one company at a time. I need to serve more people. And then kind of partnering up with you, I'm able to serve all of the clients that you have and help them close deals at the highest level. So it's been great.
That's awesome, man. So one thing that you said that kind of stood out there was at the start, you kind of like I'd imagine you had like the sales script and all the trainings and stuff like that, but you made it your own. You sought to understand why it worked the way that it did, rather than just like robotically repeating each word line by line throughout the script. I think a lot of people need to do that. And I see a lot of people like make the mistake of not doing that, just following things word for word, whether it's in their ads or sales scripts or setting or anything like that too, right? So when it comes to like somebody kind of just like maybe they've been taking quite a few sales calls, but like they're still closing below like 30, 40%. Like what are some of the common mistakes you see them make and how can they like tactically improve it? And it might be one of the answers where it's like, it's not what they want to hear, but it's what they need to hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most people just don't have like formal sales training. They go to YouTube University,
Mm,
they download somebody's free ebook or PDF, and they don't seek to understand. They seek to follow the script. And so they're like, well, this guy or this girl says this in this order. And then they go try and emulate that. And the problem is, even if that person who put that information out on the internet, just because it works for them, doesn't mean it's going to be in alignment for the person consuming the content. So the big mistake I see people make is they don't seek to understand, they seek to follow a line by line script. And humans are dynamic. Like every single human is a little bit different. And so when you try and fit humans that are all different into the same box, maybe that box works for some of them, maybe 10%, and that's why their close rate is 10%. Maybe it works for 30% of the people you're talking to. That's why your close rate is about 30%. But when you seek to understand the human psychology behind how people make buying decisions, now you're dynamic. Now you're fluid. Now you can meet people where they're at, and you can
mm.
still accomplish the same result, but you take a different path to get there. So that's number one. They just follow a script and they don't understand what they're saying or why they're saying it. And then number two, as online coaches, we are online coaches because we love serving people. We want to help people, help them invest in real estate, help them learn the stock market, help them lose weight, help them learn marketing. Like we love helping people. And so the next biggest mistake I see coaches make is they just over coach and they're way too friendly on the sales call. And so they sit there and they empathize with people and they over coach them and they over deliver information to them. And as online coaches, we have to realize that the sales call is not a coaching call. Like, sure, we might sprinkle in a little bit of coaching,
Mhm.
but if you over coach on the sales call, they kind of just see you as a friend and not as the authority. And I hate to say, but people don't really buy from their friends. They buy from people that they trust, people that they see as an authority and an expert to solve their problems. And if you're overcoaching and being super friendly on the sales call, they kind of just see you as a friend, and then they ultimately don't want to spend money with you.
That's awesome, man. That was like the biggest mistake that I made when I was first getting into it too. I was like trying to be likable. I think I was afraid of being like rejected. So I was trying to be likable and coaching and giving lots of value. And I'd hear amazing feedback at the end of the call too, after I pitched and went through everything. They're like, man, this call was so valuable and so helpful. Thanks so much, man. Really enjoyed our conversation today.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna think about it and get back to you. And
Yeah.
and then I wondered why I had like a 5% closing rate.
Dude,
And
when I
then,
first got into sales, it was the same thing. And I called up a buddy of mine who kind of got me into the industry. And I was like, dude, I'm not closing shit. Like I'm making no money. Like this industry seems great, but it's not working for me. And he's like, let me ask you a question. He's like, how you feeling on your calls? I'm like, dude, so good. He's like, how do you think your prospects are feeling on the call? I'm like, dude, they love me. Like I'm getting such good feedback. They're enjoying the conversation. And he's like, that's why you're not making any money. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? He's like, people don't want to buy from their friend. They want to buy from their authority. You're way too friendly. You're building way too much rapport, and you're just not the credible expert on the topic that they want to buy from. And it was like this huge mindset shift where I was like, so what do I do? I be mean to people? Like I'm not friendly? He's like, no, you're just the authority and you're direct and you ask high level questions. And that's when it all started to change for me. And then I could dig into that and just get better and better along the way.
oh, that's awesome, man. It's funny because like just on like a principle level too, it's like most people just make the most like they they make a lot of the same mistakes. And when you've like done the reps, it's like pretty straightforward and pretty easy for us on the other side now to like see that.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing you mentioned too was like I love how you really stress, and you stress this a lot when coaching the community too, on like, you have a classic one-liner, sales is blank. And I'd love to kind of hear your take on that and kind of how that came to be as well, because as you said earlier, it's like sales it's a way to make an impact and to help change somebody's life and help them make the decisions that they know they need to make in order to get to where they want to be, right? So first, what is that one liner? And B, kind of like, what does it mean to you? And like, how did that come about?
Yeah. Sales is service, which sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people because they're born and raised that like sales is salesy or icky or weird, or you're trying to like get people. But to me, sales is service. Like I see selling somebody something that they need as a service to them. And this is what happens to a lot of coaches is they're not good at sales. So they ultimately have less clients that they get to serve. And so every single person watching this who is an online coach, this has happened to them 100%. They've gotten on the call with the perfect prospect, somebody that they knew they could help. Like, let's say, keep it simple, you're a weight loss coach and you had like the perfect client, the right gender, the right age range, they had the right job, they were overweight, they like were saying all the right things about how they need to lose this weight, it's affecting them in this way and that way. And then at the end of the call, you don't close them because your salesmanship isn't that great. And then it's kind of like you said, like, hey, thanks for the information, let me think about it. And then they just go ghost. Well, you've just done this prospect a massive disservice because they just sat here for 47 minutes and told you how miserable they are and how much they need your help. And your inability to close them on that call is now going to leave them stuck where they're at. And then a day's going to go by, a week, a month, a year, and that prospect is going to be in the exact same spot that they're in right now. And actually, it's a worse spot because more time has elapsed. And time is the most valuable asset on planet Earth, right? You can find $5 on the ground. You're never going to find 5 minutes. So now more time has elapsed and this prospect is in a worse spot. And that's your fault. So people ask me all the time, they're like, well, at the end of the call, when they're giving you objections, like, don't you feel kind of like salesy and it's weird that there's high pressure? And my response is, at the end of the call, when you just let somebody go, knowing that they're going to stay stuck where they're at, don't you feel like a shitty coach? Right? It's like,
Mhm.
I would rather hang in the buying pocket and have uncomfortable situations, knowing that this uncomfortable decision is going to radically change their life, rather than have a comfortable conversation and then let people go, knowing a year or 2 years from now, they're just going to be stuck where they're at and even in a worse spot. So it's like, you got to pick. And I pick them and I pick service to them over being comfortable, over not having the tough conversations. I care way too much about people where I can't sleep at night knowing that I'm just leaving a bunch of people who need me stuck where they're at because I don't want to ask the tough questions, right? Your brain is designed to keep you safe, not happy. Objections are normal. Their brain is thinking, I don't want to spend 2K, 5K, 10K, whatever the price of your program is, because it's designed to keep you safe, and hoarding the money keeps you safe. But what every human wants is to ultimately be happy. And sometimes that's investing money that you really didn't want to invest because it's going to take you to where you want to go, which is fulfillment, happiness, and changing whatever situation you're in. So knowing that gives me the confidence to have the tough conversations, because those people will always come back later and thank me. They will always come back and be like, dude, you changed my life. This program was the best investment I've ever made. I don't know where I would be at without you. Thank you for saving myself from myself, right? Thank you for helping me see clearly because you're on the other side of the fence. And thank you for bringing me to this side of the fence and helping me with marketing, sales, real estate, whatever it is that you offer. They will always come back and thank you later.
I love that, man. I love that. And I know that's a huge component too, that like it's one of those levers that you can pull where it just has such a high leverage output. But most people are either like afraid of going too deep and entering the pocket, afraid of staying there with the prospect and actually like holding them accountable to make a life-changing decision, or maybe they just don't know how. So do you have any examples of like maybe somebody that you've coached recently, for example, where you kind of like help them get into the pocket and stay there with the prospect. And just for people that don't have the context too, like getting in the pocket basically means, like Austin just said, getting into those uncomfortable conversations where you're really challenging the prospect to make, like, you're not pressuring them or anything, but you're asking hard questions that really just light a fire under their ass and really just open their eyes to realize how big of a problem they actually do have right now, and how there's actually a lot of urgency to do something about it and stuff like that too. So I'm curious to know, like, on a tactical level, what's one thing that somebody can do right now to like improve the effectiveness of their sales calls by going deep or deeper with their prospects?
Absolutely. I get into the weeds of uncomfortability as quickly as possible on my calls. Like, a lot of people think that it gets kind of weird at the end of the call and there's objections. Like, I'm going deep and helping them get uncomfortable as quickly as humanly possible. So after I like build very quick rapport, after I frame the call, the first thing I do is get into pain. Like, why are you here? What do you need? How can I help? And most people aren't just going to open up and start crying and give you their life story. It's your job as a sales professional and a coach to dig deeper down that pain, to get to the root causes and have those uncomfortable situations, because that's what's ultimately going to get them to buy later at the end of the call. If you just keep it surface level, they just really don't have that much pain and that much intention to make a change. So if you ask somebody very early on, hey, I have the notes in front of me, but I'd love to hear from you directly. Like, what's got you on the call today? What's going on in terms of your health and fitness, or maybe lack thereof, that's got you reaching out for a bit of help? Yeah, I'm just not happy with my weight. What do you mean by that specifically? Like, what do you mean by not happy? Tell me more about that. Got it. How much do you weigh right now? What weight do you want to be at? What do you think is preventing you from getting there? And it's just all these very direct, short questions. Like, a word that changed my life was brevity, short and concise use of words and phrases when you speak, right? Or when you write. Because I'm long-winded. I'm very friendly. I typically love to talk a lot. And I had to tone that back on a sales call and say things as short and sweet and concise as humanly possible. Because the shorter your question and or your statement, the more weight that it holds. Like, if somebody asks me a question, well, hey, do you do this inside the program? Or, hey, have you ever worked with somebody like me? What do you think holds more weight? When I look at them and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Or I go on a 7-minute tangent about all of my clients who are just like them and I'm over explaining. It's almost coming from a place of insecurity where I'm trying to like over explain my way out of the situation. Instead, just with total certainty and confidence, I'm like, yeah, all the time. Or, yeah, absolutely. What other questions do you have for me? They're like, dang, you don't ask the doctor, you ever done a surgery like this before? And if you do, they're like, yeah, every day of the week. If they went on a 17-minute tangent about their background and their history, you start to kind of question the doctor. Like, is he trying to overcompensate for something here? Like, you start to build some doubt. So for me, when I get into the pain, I do that during discovery, because my belief, after taking 7,000 one-to-one high-ticket sales calls, pretty much every objection is preventable if you do a deep enough discovery. If you do a deep enough discovery, you can pre-handle almost every single objection, almost every single time. So then at the end of the call, typically the only question they have is like, you take American Express? Like, fuck it, let's do it. Right? That's typically how it goes. So the sooner we can get into that pain, the sooner we can get into the uncomfortable situations or conversations about their situation, the better. And when you do that with confidence, they start to see you as an expert who's done this before and is qualified to solve their challenges.
That's awesome, man. And I want to double click on something you just said there too, about like every objection can be like prevented or like pre-handled. And I'm a big proponent of that, especially when it comes to like content. I talk about that a lot. It's like pre-handle your objections in the content, but then also like there's a lot of room for error there. And there's a lot of holes where people can kind of slip through the cracks, right? Maybe you get somebody on the call who hasn't gone through all your content, right? So when they do get onto the sales call, what are some ways that somebody can kind of pre-handle or prevent objections from coming up later on down the road? And why is that important?
Yeah. It's the concept of being proactive versus reactive. Like when I was running a $3 million a year landscape company, people are like, well, why'd you quit? It was an impossible industry to be proactive. And I just ran myself ragged, always being reactive. It's just impossible to be proactive in that industry. Like you're sending 32 guys out the door. They're all over town. Tires pop, accidents happen, weather. You just can't be proactive. And if you're constantly putting out fires reactively, you just become exhausted. And so when I first got into sales, I was constantly being reactive to their objections. And it was so tiring. Like I felt like for 30 minutes, I'm just handling objections and trying to put out fires. And I'm almost like going like this, butting heads, going to war with the prospect. If you do that proactively during discovery, you're kind of on their side of the table with them. And you guys are like a team trying to figure these things out together. And so during discovery, what I do is I have 10 different topics of discovery. To give an example, like finances, are they financially qualified to do the program? Comparison. If they're on the phone with me, I assume they're also talking to other people just like me. So who else and what else are they exploring to solve their challenge? And in discovery, I just ask questions, they give answers, and then I ask more questions. I don't make any statements. QA, back and forth like ping pong. But when you uncover an objection, which 99% of the time you will, that's when you stop and you pre-handle that objection. Like if bandwidth is an objection, they're saying like, hey, I really want to lose weight, but I'm traveling for the next couple of months and I really don't have time to do this. Well, why do I want to just ignore that and then run the rest of the call? And at the end of the call, they're like, hey, I love you. I love the program. This makes sense. Give me 3 months and I'll get started. Like they told you 27 minutes ago that that was the objection. So I stopped discovery and then I handled those objections. And if there is an objection that I can't proactively handle ahead of time, I don't continue with the call. Like if I sit there for a couple minutes and try and get them through, well, what if I help you work out while you're traveling and we do this and we do that? If they're just, no, I'm not doing anything for 3 months. Hey, why don't we just circle back 2.5 months from now when you're about to be back in town and get you rolling then? Like, I'm not going to spend another 30 minutes on the call with someone who's telling me I'm not going to buy for 3 months. It just becomes a waste of my time. Most of the time though, you can proactively get them through these objections. And that's why at the end of the call, like, what are they going to do? Like, well, I don't have time. Like, dude, we just solved that for you. Like, we already handled that, right? Like, what do you mean you don't have time? We already figured that out. And people want to stay congruent and consistent. So if they said something earlier in the call, as humans, they don't want to now say the opposite later. Like, oh, my husband doesn't need to be involved in making a financial decision. They say that minute 12, minute 55, they're going to feel really weird being like, oh, actually, I need to talk to my husband. And if they do, it's like, well, hey, just out of curiosity, I guess I'm a little confused because earlier you said he didn't need to be involved. Now you're saying he does need to be involved. So like, I'm just trying to understand so I can help you. Like, which one is it? And it gives you a lot of leverage on the call if you do a deep enough discovery. Discovery also helps you figure out what they want. Like, hey, are you looking for like something in a group format, maybe more one-to-one, done with you, done for you? Like, what are you looking for specifically? You can ask questions like, hey, I know you said you worked with this person in the past. What'd you like about it? What didn't you like about it? And they're going to tell you exactly what's important to them. And then that gives you leverage to show them how your program fits exactly what they like and don't like later on in the call. So the more proactive you can be, the more objections you can handle, and the higher level you can customize your pitch to fit exactly what they're looking for and exactly what they want. Does that make sense?
100%, man. 100%. Yeah. I think a lot of people just kind of like skim over objections and like they uncover it like maybe the surface level through the discovery, but then there's like, they kind of make a note of it or like honestly just not and just breeze right past it. And then it comes to bite them in the ass later on and then they can't handle it. So
Let me
Yeah,
give you an example of
I
that.
love that.
I did a call review this morning for one of our clients, and it's
Mhm.
a fitness offer. And he's like, yeah, so what's got you on the call today? The first thing this woman said is, well, I saw a bunch of your videos on Instagram, and there was a bunch of women that are super busy, just like me. So I'm really trying to find something that can fit into my busy lifestyle because I work 12 hours a day. And he was like, gotcha. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. And then just moved on to another question that was totally unrelated to what she just said. Keep in mind, we're about a minute and a half into the call. I paused the call and I said, let me guess. At the end of the call, she didn't buy. And her reason for not buying is she's too busy. He's like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, because she just gave you what she needs and you didn't even talk about it. You just glazed over it, moved on, and talked about something else that you wanted to talk about. If you just would have asked, well, what do you do for work? How many hours a week do you work? Do you commute or do you work from home? Right? Is there any activeness in your job? Or are you sitting at a desk for those 12 hours a day? Got it. What do you make at your job? Right? There's so many questions we can ask. We can figure out exactly how many hours she does have, and then we can bake that into our pitch later. Hey, I know you said you got about 2 hours a day. Here's exactly how we're going to use those 2 hours to get you the best results. You didn't do that, she doesn't buy. Right? So you have to go deep. You have to uncover these things, not just move on to other things that you want to talk about.
Love that. How important is it to customize your pitch versus memorizing it and just rolling out, rinse and repeating the same pitch to each prospect?
It's an interesting question because it's actually a combination of both that you want to do. And
Mhm.
so in my pitch, I call them my pillars, which is the 3, maybe 4 main selling points of your program. Fitness example, one of them could be your nutrition, one of them could be your actual workouts, one of them could be accountability, right? So those are going to stay the same for every prospect: fitness, nutrition, accountability. But then you want to customize each of those pillars for that prospect based on things they told you during discovery. So you can say things like, hey, step number 2, when we do your fitness here, I know earlier you said you will not and hate going to the gym. So what we're going to do is we're going to customize you at home workout so you don't have to go to the gym because I know that you refuse to do that. Right? So you're taking your main topic of fitness, but you're customizing it for things they told you earlier that are going to make sense for them. My rule of thumb is I should not be able to take a pitch and play it for another prospect and have it resonate with them, because I've customized it at a high enough level where if I copied it and showed it to another prospect, they wouldn't buy because it's not really that relevant to them. So it should be customized enough where it can't be shown to other people and have it resonate. Does that make sense?
100%, man. That's good. I like that. So basically coming up with the 3 core pillars of your offer, which are kind of rinse and repeat. And then as you explain each one, that's where you customize it to. And I remember when I started to do that too, it just like the closing rate just skyrocketed like crazy. So with that said too, like when it comes to like dropping the price, I know a lot of people have like different perspectives when it comes to like making the offer and the price and stuff like that. I know some people preach that you should just keep asking questions and just wait until they ask you about the price. Some people, because like they kind of just want to like almost hide the price a little bit. Some people like they pitch the price right with the offer. Like, what have you found to be most effective?
I think it shows confidence of you leading them to the numbers, because that's authority, right? If I'm like, hey, any other questions or can we dive into the numbers? They're like, yeah, let's dive into the numbers. I'm leading them there, where they take authority when they start asking you about the numbers and then you're giving them the numbers. So I like to lead people there. Like once I go through the pitch, which is like pillars and delivery of the program, next is the price drop. If I can tell they're kind of running out of questions around the pillars and around the delivery, oh, it's 6 months, whatever. It's like, hey, any other questions or can we dive into the numbers? Most people are like, yeah, let's get into the numbers. Because what happens is if you're like, any other questions? They're like, no, all good, but how much does it cost? Like, then they have to lead you there. So I like to lead them there. And then the price drop's pretty simple. It's like, yeah, so to work together for the next 3 months to help you accomplish X, Y, Z, it's a one-time investment of just X. Like that is the most simple price drop you can do. Now you can get fancy with like paid in full discounts and stuff like that, but the easiest bare bones price drop, like word for word, what I just said, probably 4.5 million of the 6.5 million I've closed is literally with that line by line, word by word, like help you accomplish X in the next X amount of months. It's a one-time investment of just X. Stop talking. Simple as it gets.
How important is silence in sales?
Really important. Shows that you're confident. Like it shows that you don't like another big mistake, going back to one of your previous questions that I see people make, they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in their program. They don't believe in their price. So they're like, yeah, it's 5K. And then they go on a 4-minute tangent trying to justify why the program is worth that amount of money. But it shows a lot of confidence when you're like, yeah, it's just 5K. Like you've already said everything you needed to say. You already built rapport, framed the call, dug into pain, did discovery, pitched your pillars, pitched your delivery. You've said enough. And then from there, you're like, yeah, it's just 5K. And it shows that you're really confident. You actually believe in the price of the program being 5K. It shows that you don't believe in it when you spend 10 minutes trying to justify why it's worth that amount of money. And then it builds this weird energy and this weird resistance where logically your program makes sense, but emotionally they don't feel compelled to buy it.
Hmm.
So
I like that. Now, what can somebody do? Like, what advice would you give somebody? Let's say you could kind of sense that I wasn't confident in my program or my price or my program at that price point. What advice would you give me to either increase that confidence conviction on my end, or I guess anything to increase my closing rate, make more sales and stuff like that? Would that be a price drop? Would that be like reminding myself of client wins all the time? Like, what would you tell somebody that like you can clearly sense like they're kind of shaky when it comes to their pitch?
client wins, like you said, is the easiest and the fastest. Like if you have client wins, that's the easiest way to build your confidence. Like go read your LinkedIn recommendations, your Google reviews, your Trustpilot reviews, watch your testimonials, go to your Slack community and read what people are saying and realize that the results they're getting far exceed the money that they invested with you. So that justifies your price. Maybe you're a brand new fitness coach and you have 0 client testimonials. Well, look at yourself. What have you done for yourself on your fitness journey? How much weight have you lost? How much muscle have you gained? Like, look at the people you've helped for free. Like, we have to justify what we're doing based on something. Like, you don't just wake up one day knowing nothing about fitness. You're like, I'm going to be a fitness coach. You've gotten yourself or you've gotten friends or family, whether you've been paid for it or not, results. And you've gotten them enough where you felt inspired to where you wanted to help more people and actually charge for it. Right. So it's simple. You just look at your past results, your testimonials, your reviews, and realize that you're actually worth whatever it is that you're charging. So that's on like an emotional level of feeling good about your price. But on a tactical level, whether you feel good about your price or not, human psychology is they're going to associate value with cost. So if I look at you and I'm like, hey, Jeremy, is $100 a lot of money? You're going to say no. But if I say, hey, is $100 a lot of money for this bottle cap? You're going to be like, yeah, absolutely. Nothing changed. The $100 is still the $100. I just put something of value, not much value, but something of value to the amount of money. And now it becomes expensive, right? Or a lot of money. And so people associate value with cost. So when you go through this whole spiel of how you're going to change their life and help them accomplish X, Y, Z, and you're like, yeah, it's just 2K, they're kind of confused. They're like, well, if you can help me accomplish all of this, why is it so cheap? And then they're like, are you new? Do you not have testimonials? Like, do you just not have that many leads? Like, why is your program so inexpensive? If it can do all of these high pie in the sky things, why do you only charge 2K? When something is expensive, right? Expensive, they think that it's better. And so the higher your price, the more people think like, this is exactly what I need. Like, I need this. Like, there's no way this guy charges 5K, 10K, 50K if he's not the real deal. right? So emotionally, look at your testimonials, but tactically understand the psychology that people associate value with cost. So the higher your cost, the more inherent value they assume that it has, and it makes them want it more.
I love that. Love that, man. Great answer. I love how like in depth you go, as well as like, and circling back to like the very first thing we talked about was like the why, right? So it's not like, oh, do this because I said so. It's like, do this because of all of these reasons. Here's the psychology behind it and everything like that too. Because I truly believe when you understand why you're doing something, then that way, like you have so much creative freedom and flexibility to then make your own assumptions and kind of put your own spin on things too, which a lot of people struggle with too. Um, I know a lot of people get hit with, and we already kind of covered this as well to prevent this, to prevent these specific objections from coming up later is by improving your discovery process and then stopping them in their tracks when you do uncover them. But let's say somebody goes through that and then they get hit with the I need to think about it objection towards the end. I know another common one too is like, oh, like finances, and they get hit with a bunch of smoke screens around finances and whatnot. Like, when it comes to like, let's say you just pitch me an offer. Let's just say it's fitness coaching. And we'll just stick on that train. I've told you all about my pain, all about my problem. I've just made a case on how bad my life is and how much it sucks for the last 35 minutes. And then you pitch the offer. I say, oh my God, this sounds exactly like what I need, exactly what I'm looking for. And then how much is it? How can we get started? Oh, it's 3K. Oh, okay. Well, I need to go think about it. What do you do?
It's like I describe it as like a bomb goes off, right? Everything is going really, really good. And then you drop
Yeah.
the price and it's like, "Poof," and then they
Sticker
just like,
shock.
yeah, they just freak out a little bit. Um, so when I handle objections, I actually handle them mostly with questions, not statements, because I want to be on their side of the table. So at a fundamental level, we must walk across and get on their side of the table, or no matter what you do, it's not going to work. Like they need to feel like you're their teammate, helping them solve a financial challenge, a mental challenge, a time or bandwidth challenge. Like they want to feel like you're helping them, not going to war with them. Like I think there was this thing I saw in an ad a long time ago. It's like closer flashcards, and it was like an objection on one side and then like a word for word statement to say on the other. And the examples I looked at, it was just straight going to war with people. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you can't just run over people in the objections phase and expect them to feel good about buying. And there's a difference between being sold and buying, right? I don't think I've ever sold someone ever, actually. Every single person I've talked to has bought from me. It's a big psychological difference. That's why my refund rate has always been 0, because people are making their own decision to buy. I'm not railing them through the door with sales tactics. So it's very different. But when that happens, you really want to slow down. It's like, hey, I need to think about it. It's like, hey, totally respect that. And just so I'm organized, like, what is it that you want to think about? Is it a time thing? Is it a money thing? Like, what's really coming up for you? Because I don't have enough information to handle that objection because I don't know what you want to think about. So then you're going to give me, oh, it's a money thing. And now what I want to do is diffuse the money thing by just getting it off the table. And it's like, hey, let me ask you this. Money aside, right? Instead of 3K, maybe it's $30 to work together. Like if it was only a $30 investment, would you have credit card in hand, like reading me the number, ready to get started? Or is there anything else coming up for you that's keeping you from being less than 100% certain that I'm the best coach, this is the best program, and this is exactly what you want to do? And if it becomes, no, dude, if it was $30, yes, I'd have my card number. Like it's just a money thing. Well, now we've isolated that money is the only objection. And now we can get creative to handle that objection. If there's something else coming up, maybe it's a bandwidth thing, well, we can just ignore money right now, because handling the money objection, they still have the bandwidth objection. And so
Mhm.
ultimately, they're not going to buy, right? So we have to isolate money. Is it just money? Yay or nay? And then if there's something else coming up for them, then we handle that objection first. We get everything else handled. And then we can go and handle the money objection by getting creative, PayPal credit, Affirm, payment plan, like whatever we need to do to get them rolling on money. So you slow down, ask questions, understand at a deeper level. You don't want to use like really salesy, going to war, butting heads with them type statements, because then even if they do buy, they also feel like they kind of just got sold, and then they don't feel good about it. Then they have buyer's remorse. Then they want a refund. You got to get
Yeah.
on their side of the table for sure.
I love that, man. Yeah, my camera's dying right now. I think it's overheating.
Okay.
Been on for too long today, but nonetheless, that's great, man. So pretty much like slow it down, come from a place of understanding and curiosity. Sift through the smoke screens, isolate the objection. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna switch you over right now to my other one. But yeah, that's all really good, man. Because I know a lot of people kind of get like put on their heels when they get hit with objections like that, and they just go into defense mode, and then they're not too sure how to handle it, and then they're trying to just justify themselves, and it's a slippery slope from there and a downward spiral. So that's really good. I appreciate you sharing that, because it's very tactical, and somebody can take that right now and start using that. And I remember reading a
Can I
book a
add
few
one
years
more
ago.
thing to that?
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but your energy here is really important. I've reviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more calls than I would care to admit that I've reviewed for people. And 99% of the time, you can see a clear energy shift. They get hit with an objection, and you just see them get like annoyed. Maybe they cross their arms, they squint their eyes a little bit, they kind of lean back. Like you can visibly see them getting annoyed, and you can hear it in their voice and their tonality. And they're just wearing their emotions on their sleeve because they're like, fuck, another objection, right? Like they're just frustrated about it. And what I do for those clients when I'm reviewing their call is I rewind it a couple seconds and I show them the clip. And then I go all the way back to the beginning of the call. And I'm like, do you see the difference in your energy? And they're like, wow, like they don't realize how big of an energy shift they made. And I literally just click back and forth and show them body language, tonality, cadence, like just their emotions. You have to remain cool, calm, and collected. And you might be pissed off and you might be frustrated. And you're like, I just want to shake this person. Like, you need me, but you can't wear those emotions on your sleeve. You can't visibly get frustrated and squint your eyes and just be super short with them. It's an objection. It happens. It's not the end of the world. And if you've done a good enough job during discovery and all the other parts of the call, everything will be okay. Just slow down, ask some questions, seek to understand, don't seek to destroy. We don't need to destroy objections. We can just ask questions and let them destroy their own objections, which is far more powerful than you being super salesy and like high pressure and saying fancy stuff you learned on the internet of like, I'm just going to steamroll. You need to buy. Like, how's your life working out for you right now? Like, it just doesn't work. And even if it does, they want a refund later anyway. So we just
Yeah.
slow down, ask questions, seek to understand with good energy. It all works out.
No, that's awesome, man. I remember reading a book years ago, and he said the art of negotiation or sales is getting the other party to come to your conclusion on their own. And that's exactly what we're doing here, right?
Yeah.
By asking the right questions, we're getting them to, like you said, sell themselves pretty much and make that buying decision on their own and destroy their own objections rather than us having to do that. Because like you said, it's a complete energy shift. And it's like it's us plus them against their problem instead of us versus them creating the problem or creating a different problem, right? So yeah, I appreciate that, man. Before we wrap up, is there any last piece? Do you have any last like sales tips or advice that someone can take like right now, tactically apply to their next sales call and see an improvement?
Absolutely. Two things. Number one, spend at least 15 minutes doing nothing but asking questions. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. If you're running out of questions, you're just not going deep enough. Like I could ask somebody questions for 3 hours on a topic that I care about, fitness, health, whatever. Like I can sit there for a long time and get educated on them. Everybody in their life wants to feel important. The easiest way to help people feel important is to ask them questions about themselves and allow them to tell you all the reasons why they need your program. That's number one. So tactically, set a timer, 15 minutes. And I think people watching this would be shocked when they review one of their own calls and they're like, I asked questions for 6 minutes. How are you going to understand enough about this stranger that you met on the internet in 6 minutes to prescribe them the solution that is your program? If the doctor comes in, pokes you, yep, your arm's broken, you need surgery. It's like, whoa, like, don't you want to like twist and turn and ask more questions and ask how it happened? Like, don't you want to get more educated? Oh, you don't? That means you don't really care. And I'm going to go to another doctor and get their opinion. So that's number one. Number two, most people, not everyone, but most people don't charge enough for their program. And with how little they charge actually affects their close rate. If you charge more money, typically you close more sales. Now, obviously there's resistance in the market and you have to understand your prospect and, you know, things like that. But if you raise your price, you typically raise your close percentage. If you don't feel good about your program being 1,500, make it 3K. If you don't feel good about it being 3K, make it 5K, right? Like, you can raise your price. You're an entrepreneur, you're a coach, you can do whatever you want. And you want to feel really good about the money that you're charging, because that will help you go to war for your clients on the inside of your program at a higher level. If you don't feel good about it, raise it. And when you raise it, your close percentage, doing nothing else different, is also going to raise because of that value with cost thing. So that's another tactic. And look, if your close rate sucks right now, everybody's telling you no, what are you going to do? Double your price and then just more people are going to tell you no? Like, it's the same result. You might as well try it. But as soon as that one person says yes to the higher price, you're like, oh, wow, maybe price was never the issue. Maybe it was the issue, it's just too low. Or maybe it's that I'm just not good at sales, right? So those are little things that you can do to start to play around with close percentage.
Interesting, man. That's really cool. And the opposite of what a lot of people say too. So I'd imagine like a caveat to that is like, actually be good at what you do and believe in what you are selling, and have some sort of proof to back it up, and then just let it rip. So that's awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the channel. This is an incredible video, and drop some absolute bombs for everybody. So just want to say again, thanks so much for all the value you provide to all the clients inside the community and the program. And again, I hear nothing but incredible things from every single one of them. So you're doing great work, and we appreciate you a ton. Thanks for hopping on here. And yeah, I'm curious, where can people find you if they want to work closer with you as well?
Yeah, you can either just go to my Instagram, which is just AMEDSS, or closesales.com, and have some information there. But yeah, you and I kind of working with the clients together, it's just been disgusting, because no one in the world better at marketing, running the ads, helping with the appointment setting stuff as you and the team. You're generating and helping them generate so many leads. And then I'm coming in with effective sales strategies that actually work. So they're getting leads, they're getting the sales closed. Like, the wins channel has just been absolutely disgusting. So it's been a great combination, and I'm glad that we're doing it. So
100%. Yeah, me too. Because you can have all the calls in the world, but again, if you don't close them, it doesn't matter. So
correct.
yeah, it's a wonderful relationship that we have and that our clients get to benefit from too. Is it's super cool. And it's funny, while we were on this call as well, one of our clients just hit his first 50K month.
Let's
And
go.
there we go. So let's talk about client wins and everything. There's proof right there. But yeah, again, thanks so much, Austin. Appreciate you, brother. And
Of course.
yeah, if you guys want to get hands-on help fixing your lead and your sales problem, book in a call down below, and we'll get cracking. So, all right, that's it for this video. See you guys next one. Bye.